Okay, did you actually know that this event is accredited as part of the recertification as a data protection officer by the Austrian standards? I guess no, I didn't know myself. Anyways, in the next 10 to 15 minutes, Gisela Krenn from the Austrian Standards will tell us about the certification as data protection officer, how to get there, what to do in order to keep your certification, how the monitoring body works, how this is all aligned with GDPR. And for that, I'm welcoming Gisela Krenn, the portfolio manager of the non-product certification at Austrian Standards, which is, the accreditation body. Everything else is very, very complicated for me to explain, so I will just let Gisela explain it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I hope you had a very interesting afternoon until now. So, as you already heard, I'm from Austrian Standards. Who is Austrian Standards? Well, we are an organization serving and dealing with standards in international, national, and European way. It's also a building where people come together and make these standards. And beside these standards, we also have some products based on these standards. For example, publishing, training, and the certification body you already heard. Where are located? We are located in Vienna, in the 2nd district, next to the Prater. And the certification body of Austrian Standards has different duties. We provide product, personal, and this is the next one, which I would like to talk about. But I also will mention the service and the management certification. We're dealing with, for example, the compliance certification. Maybe some of you know certification bodies are, of course, in different accreditations, and we are accredited by the Austrian Akkreditierung Austria, it's called, for different type of our certifications. As far as product certification is concerned, certification for the management systems, and now today's topic, data protection. So we are also a monitoring body accredited by the National Data Protection Authority. What is the data protection officer about? It's a proof of competence, a competence proof from an independent organization, which we are. And the data protection officer advises organizations and companies on their obligations with the GDPR. And it also provides some kind of point of contact between organizations and the people, the individuals who are dealing with data. What are the requirements? Well, certification, you might learn in a few minutes, is always documentation itself. So with the certification for the product, for the data protection officer, we have a certification scheme which shows exactly what the examination or the certification is about. So what are the requirements? First of all, for most of you, you already done your educations, but some of them who would like to do a training, you can prove your professional education. And the second one, which might be most of the interest of you, is the documentation of at least 2 years of practical experience in the field of data security, data processing, and data protection. How is the certification look like? Well, it's an examination. It's an online examination which takes place through a self-service portal, and it's the field the questions is data security, of course, the GDPR regulations, data protection law itself, and the duties and responsibilities of the data protection officer itself. It's an online examination, as I already said, so we have a multiple choice test with 4 questions. One is the correct answer, so it's a single choice test, and after a positive result, you get a certificate which is valid 3 years. And in certification, there's only confirm or non-conformity, so there's no grade like in school, for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In Germany, there's also 6, but in certification, there's only you are positive or not positive. I always say to our certification holders that when you get initially the certification, please think about the recertification after 3 years, because you need some education, further education, in order to get your recertification. So what does that exactly mean? I'm sorry, that's the next one. You have to prove the education. It's a document review, so it's not, again, a written test like the first one, just a document review with the further education, what is it called? Projects you are taking, and of course, some more events like this, for example. This is a perfect event to show that you are always on the top of your information. You try to get the knowledge on the first level side. So like today, for those who are already data protection officers, might be this a good confirmation for our recertification place. The costs, I already said the costs, no. Of course, this is a costly thing. Not so much for 4 years, it's 492 euros, so you have your certification always in time. Austrian standards is also, as I mentioned before, a monitoring body according GDPR Article 40. What does that mean? That means that a code of conduct comes in town, for example, for the address and dialogue marketing organizations. And the Article 40 also say that it has to be a mandatory monitoring body behind this. Why? I tell you right now. This slide I will skip. It's, as I already said, certification monitoring is very documented. So if you are very interested in the details, you can afterwards read the slide. I think it's much easier. We have a cooperation with the Chamber of Commerce, and the Chamber of Commerce and the trade associations made the code of conduct, as I already said, for address and dialogue marketing organizations. And then afterwards, we are nominated by the Chamber of Commerce to be the monitoring body in this field. Again, there is a monitoring scheme, in this case we say, where processes, procedures, how the monitoring process takes place, and of course complaint procedures, I explain it later, are mentioned. Who is coming to you? Nobody exactly, because all these monitoring takes place remote. So the experts, the auditors, so to speak, are nominated by the Chamber of Commerce and deployed by Austrian standards and are responsible together with us to implement the monitoring process with the organizations. Again, I would like to mention this monitoring process is only for address and dialogue marketing organizations, so not for everyone. Here is again the complaints. Why? Because the complaints is also a part of the Article 40, but it's only for complaints for organizations who are monitored. So it's not like anyone calls, yeah, my data is not used correctly. That's not the way we work. It's only for complaints as the monitoring body or the organization who is monitored doesn't fulfill the requirements according to the code of conduct. What are the objectives? We have here seen surveillance. We already heard surveillance is not the right word. That's why we used monitoring. But the Article 40 doesn't like monitoring. They like surveillance. So I put it on this. Please put together this like it's an law text. So what are the objectives? Of course, surveillance, it says like this, build trust. What do you think? Surveillance is a negative word, but it also says it's a transparency with how the data is used of the customer. Legal certainty, of course. It's the data controller uses these regulations also to say, I'm doing the right thing. And the monitoring body just said, yeah, well, that's fine. The monitoring or the code of conduct is on a voluntary basis, but if you monitor, then you can also count on that if there's a penalty, maybe it's an mitigation of the fees you can get. But it's not for all, not for everyone, just for the organizations who are monitored by a monitoring body like us. So how does the initial monitoring procedure take place? First of all, there's an application where you also have to submit some documents, like data processing. How do you do it? How do you use the technical organization measures? Are there already ones? I guess there are ones, but not always it's quite clear what they are, how they get used, and how, that's the main word, how they are documented. Because the experts or the auditors who's coming to your organization doesn't even know that in the cupboard on the last page there are the lists. So that's the neutral or the monitoring body's objective to see where all these documents are. The monitoring process itself, it's a two-step procedure. The first one is, as you would like to say, just a fulfillment of the regulation. Is your organization fit to get the certificate at the end? And the second one, that's the main audit, where the auditors coming to your office, remote, as I said, and really look into your organization, in all the processes, in all the regulations you have, in all your offices. And they're also making interviews mainly with the main management, but also with the DPOs, of course. And they're also making interviews with the employees who are responsible for the data on a daily basis. After the 2 days of monitoring audits, there's a review, and then, of course, everybody wants to have a confirmation. So that's the monitoring certificate we speak. In this case, with the address and dialogue marketing organizations, we have also a register where it is recorded. And it's also valid as a data protection officer for 3 years. And after these 3 years, you can also make a recertification. It's again called monitoring, so it's an ongoing monitoring every 3 years. The auditors coming to your office and check if there is something changed. Did you make the improvements? Are there improvements necessary or not? And that's the main point. So it's always this ongoing monitoring. Here is again this complaint. Well, it's just a valid complaint in connection with the code of conduct, not with anything else like, is my data correctly used? Of course, there are expenses. The time, I already said, it's what we have to think about are approximately 3 days. Depends on how large your organization is. The cost, we think about 5,000 euros. And here is also the label mentioned on the slide, which is the label from the Dialogue Marketing Association together with us. They is also for 3 years, and they made it up with us together. So as you can see, the certificate has in the middle a different kind of labeling where it's a number in it, and with this number, this the same thing. You can use our internet website, where on the internet website is a database behind, so everyone can see this organization has a certificate either for the code of conduct or the personal certification for the DPOs. Again, it's for 3 years. As I said before, certification is very strict and very documentative, and it's some kind of large and lot of thinking, but I hope I could give you a brief overview how we work, how the DPOs and the monitoring body with Austrian standards works. Yeah, and I think if here you are. I'm sure you have some questions. If not, I think. Thank you.
I tried to keep my promises. I told you 10 to 15 minutes. And until the 15 minutes are up, I see we have 1.5 minutes left. Is there any question from the audience now? I just have a very, very quick one. How many DPOs did you already hand out, certificates?
840.
In which time?
5 years.
In 5 years. Wow.
And it's still going on.
So trend upwards.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I mean, you have a lot of people here.
Yeah.
You might get a few more. All right. So thank you, Gisela.
Thank you. Should I take it? Thank you.